everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all the places at Hawk Blogger. And we're here at day 2 of the NFL Combine, and lots of stuff going on here. Talked to a bunch of players, from defensive linemen, edge players, linebackers. Have some great video to add for you there. Also just finished talking to Mike Macdonald at his podium press conference, as well as his off-podium press conference. And so those two press conference audios are up at patreon.com/hawkblogger. You can find those there. But in just a few moments, we're going to have an opportunity to talk to Coach for a few minutes. So stay tuned as he winds his way here. Come into this ragtag crew for a conversation. Looking forward to talking with Coach. And, you know, a lot of stuff, a lot of newness for him coming into this Combine for the first time as a head coach, first time head coach as the Seahawks, and learning a lot. And he's got quite the entourage with him. Like, he got Pearson, he's got Garza, the security. It's, you know, nobody listens. I'm so glad you're here. Maybe someone will listen now.
Okay.
How's it going, man?
Good. I was walking down, and I'm like, oh, I wonder who he's talking to, and then I saw you was talking to a camera. So
you're used to that
respect.
by now. You've gotten.
No, it's funky because the one that you do, they're like, hey, look at the thing, you know, below the. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just let me look at the camera. You know.
Well, everyone's wanting me to ask you about football, but I'm going to ask you about, like.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you're doing good. You're doing good. First off season as a dad. How's that going?
I'm like, I just keep reminding myself, like, man, they've been doing this for thousands of years, and people have been all right, you know. It's not easy. And I got it easy. Like, I'm going to work, and my wife's doing all the things, but
Yeah.
But it's fun too. You think about, I mean, there's times where, like, I'm sure I'm going to go back to like a whole new baby, and then you're just like, realize that 2 months like really mattered, you know. Like, I really cherish those times that you have. You know, they're not coming back, so it's been fun.
You can admit it. Steph's not going to be listening. Is it a little
She
nice
doesn't
to
listen
get?
to this?
I'm probably not. You got a little respite here, like you know, at the Combine. No baby duty.
I mean, people that know me know that I just love this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we're doing it. It's worth it. But yeah, I like being home.
All right. So this is an important question that I'm pretty sure no one's asked you so far. So, have you taken your shirt off during any of the interviews with the players? Do you know about this?
Yeah, first one I just ripped it off just to tear the Band-Aid off. So.
Have you been getting ready for that? Working out?
I have been working hard, but I'm not no shirt ready right now. Maybe in a few months.
You know, obviously, you know, your first chance to be here as a head coach of the Seahawks, head coach in general. When you get into these interview sessions and you're talking to these guys who's trying to realize their dreams as NFL players, what are you looking to learn? Like, obviously the football stuff, I know you're passionate, you love to talk ball, but as you're evaluating who the person is, what are you looking to learn?
I think the first thing you have to think about is, like, it's not just my opinion that's going to make or break this guy for the next 15, 20 minutes. Our scouts have been working on these relationships with these guys for years. They put way more time into it than we have. We're just trying to get caught up. I wanted just to get a feel for the person, feel for the guy when he starts talking about football, how he lights up when the tape turns on, how he interacts on the field. Those are just things that you can feel when you in person rather than just watching on tape. That's why we're here. But you can't be thinking like, I'm just going to learn everything. I'm going to be the only guy with an opinion on this for the next 15 minutes, and we're making a decision off of that. Just I'm adding kind of this observation into the collective teamwork that we're compiling.
I talked about this with John yesterday that, you know, everyone's talking to John about the offensive line, talking to you about the offensive line. You guys know that's an area you want to improve.
Yeah.
But you look at the world champs, and they tend to add strength to strength to strength, even if they don't have a clear need. You know, is there going to be pressure to push up offensive line or push up a need in the draft versus, like, if there's a great player that follows you and he's a defensive lineman, you guys already have a great defensive line, do you look to add? John talked about staying with, you know, getting the best players and not pushing need. How do you feel about that?
I think that's really important. I think that's just dangerous if you let that guide you. My experience in the draft and what works in terms of building teams aligns with the way John sees it. He's had a lot of success here. picking some great players when, that might not have been actually a position he'd right then, but it is in a year. It might be in 6 months. It could be in the middle of the spring. So we're in the business of adding great players and guys that fit our football team and the skill sets we're looking for. Obviously, we want to improve up front on both sides of the ball, but we're always going to want to do that. So, but you can't let that be the singular driving force behind what you decide to do.
You've been on record saying that you love the guys you got on the line, and you see opportunities there. Christian Haynes, one of the only players I saw react to the Clint Kubiak signing on Twitter. He was excited about that signing.
Good.
I think it's guys from UConn, his former coaches, feel like it's a good fit for what he's good at, getting off the ball, targeting people on the run.
Yeah.
Do you see that as an opportunity for a real big step?
Yeah, I think him and, some of his best clips that I can remember at UConn are running some version of wide zone. Like you said, get to the second level, running off the rock. He's a physical player, plays with the right demeanor. So, yeah, I'm excited for Christian playing with Clint.
Nose tackle, not a position probably most people spend a lot of time on.
Oh, yeah, love it.
I love it too. A lot of big guys in this draft class. Kind of unusual how many big guys there are in this class. You had Jonathan Hankins here last year. Is part of the recipe for getting more out of Byron Murphy having somebody that can play nose a little bit more, or is it totally independent?
Well, I think you need players that can play the A gap. I mean, that's kind of where it starts. Mm-hmm. On every scheme you can draw up, you need to be stout up the middle, and there's not many people like that walking the face of the earth. So, especially in our scheme, we want to be strong up the middle and make the ball go outside. And I think the cool thing about Murph is he can play both A and B gap, and even though his frame isn't like a prototypical 3 technique or A gap player. His skill set and play style, lends to be able to play in our scheme that way. So I wouldn't say hey, we need that position to play that gap, but yeah, we want to add people along our front. That just kind of it takes everyone can play the roles that they're really good at, and we can find more opportunities for Murph to do the stuff that he does well. I
don't know if you're gonna admit to this, but I felt like I noticed early in camp that when the offense had a good day, you weren't too happy at the press conference afterwards.
Okay.
Do you
didn't hide it that well?
Do you feel like, after a full season now of coaching the whole team, do you feel a little bit more pull to the offensive side, knowing where that was an area you really need to grow?
I'd like to think this is my philosophy in terms of what makes a good practice or not, but to me it's all about the intent. If the guys are out there with the right attitude, right effort, where the focus is right, the spirit of the practice is right, where it's competitive, but we're sharpening each other. There's going to be mistakes. We're going to screw stuff up and not be a good call, all that stuff. We can fix all that, But if we're not going out with the right mentality and intent in practice, that's the stuff where that drives me crazy. So maybe it was one of those days that you're thinking of.
I'm getting a look from Dave, so let me give you one more here. You talked that. I asked you all these questions during the season about, which I'm sure you're like, oh my God, what's coming next out of Brian's mouth. But you're not able to really do projects during the season. You're not able to look at what's going on in the league, outside the league. Do you have projects that you do in this offseason, and is it all on the defensive side where you look at stuff and trends, or do you also now kind of look at what's happening offensively?
We're on two little bit of a different timetable offensively and defensively right now. Defensively, we're on a lot of projects. I can tell you that. Our coaches they know that we're working on a lot of stuff, which is good. But how do you not love projects? That's when you learn. That's how you understand the game. You understand how things are going to evolve. The systems you want to build, the answers you have to have, accounted for. I mean, that stuff's a lot of fun. And we do those throughout the season, too. I mean, we have guys working in the background on what's going on in the league, self-scout type stuff. You can spend more time of it on short week or longer weeks or bye weeks, but it's important to stay up to speed during the season as well.
Coach, appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your combine.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
That's Coach Mike Macdonald of your Seattle Seahawks stopping by to say hello. And you guys should see the rest of this crew. It's the A-list crew that they brought over here to talk to all of you. And yeah, if you didn't hear, one of the things that I'd asked Mike about earlier was also what's going on with analytics and getting into what's going on with the scouting department on that side. So he's obviously been involved with Brian Ayers on the in-game analytics, but this offseason he gets an opportunity to spend more time with the scouting, the personnel analytics. And so that's going into looking at looking at how they're grading prospects. And this is something that the Ravens are pretty far advanced in. And so the fact that Mike Macdonald's kind of leaning in, pretty cool. That was one of my biggest takeaways in talking with him earlier today. And I think that bodes well. I think that's a unique skill that he brings to the table, and I think he's going to be able to up-level that group just by being involved. Other pieces here. Let me just turn off one of the mics so you guys don't get extra feedback. When we talked to Mike, there was a conversation around, obviously the defensive line. And you heard me ask about need, and are you going to, do you feel like you're going to push up need? By the way, you heard me ask the question the way I asked it because I intentionally always want to make sure that who I'm asking is not going to feel like I'm trapping them in something. And I'd already talked to John about it. I don't want to get in a situation where John says one thing and Mike says another. I'm not looking to create that kind of conflict. And also, that erodes trust, and you're going to get generally going to start getting worse answers. People will start clamming up. So I wanted him to know what John had said, but I wanted his perspective on it. In any event, one of my questions going into this offseason, that one of the least talked about Seahawks free agents, I feel like, is Jarran Reed, who was a very important part of the defensive line last year and played really well, huge locker room presence, a mentor for Byron Murphy. And my question was to Mike, all right, you're on record as saying that you want to get Byron Murphy more pass rush opportunities. You want to get him more snaps in general, that he's earned it. Is part of the solution there, Jarran Reed's snaps? He's a free agent. Is part of the solution, getting a nose tackle that can take up the nose tackle snaps that Byron was taking? And his answer was enlightening. Basically, the clear takeaway there was he wants Jarran Reed back. Says Jarran knows how we feel about him. Jarran wants to be here. I think Mike, he went as far as say he expects him to be here. So I think Jarran Reed will come back. That's probably not a shock to a lot of people. It's been a question in my mind because that's money that could be going to another position. Those are snaps that could be going to another player. And so nothing against Jarran Reed, but when you invest a 16th overall pick in the first round in a really good young defensive tackle, that takes priority, that takes precedence. And so first you figure out how to get him fed, and then you figure out the rest. And is Jarran Reed ready to play a supporting role where he's getting 300 snaps instead of 600 or 700 snaps? I don't know. Maybe he is. He's certainly later in his career, but he's coming off two of the best years of his career. So I thought that was interesting as well, talking to Mike earlier. And then, I haven't had a chance to really go through my notes on the whole press conference, so I won't have all of my takeaways ready for you all. We will have a Real Hawk Talk tonight, probably around 4 o'clock. We'll have Dana O'Gorman, we'll have myself, we'll have Jeff Simmons calling in from home, so we'll get the crew together. We will talk about all the prospects that we talked to, anyone that stood out to Dana. We'll talk to Jeff about what he's hearing, because one of the cool things is, with the Real Hawk Talk crew being all over the place, I'm getting messages from, Jeff and Evan and Josh and Derek about what's going on and what they're hearing in different interviews that I can't pay attention to right now. Dana's out here interviewing different players than I am. So we're getting a lot of different coverage. We'll talk about some of that this afternoon around probably 4 o'clock Eastern time, I should say. So Real Hawk Talk is going to be very early relative to the most Real Hawk Talks because Dana and I are going to get steak later tonight. So won't be able to do the normal later evening Real Hawk Talk. So just be aware, it's a triple pod Wednesday with what's coming up there. And Nathan, people are asking about Nathan. Nathan is on a flight. He will arrive later tonight, and then he will join. He'll join us tomorrow, and we'll be here for the next few days. So can't wait for Nathan to join. Really looking forward to his perspective. And tomorrow, the other thing that's going to be happening is the combine starts, the actual testing on the field. So we'll be able to go over to Lucas Oil Stadium. I will try to get some video and some still frame shots of what's going on over there. Really looking forward to that. a lot of the media is not particularly interested in that part of the thing. It's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll get jaded about it once I see it. And I kind of get it. This is very addictive right here. You've got so many people. Like, I could pretty much pull. I'm looking at, Charles Davis right now doing an interview. Diana Rossini, I talked to her yesterday. You pretty much could pull anybody potentially to come over and do an interview. It's very, very addictive. So I understand why people just kind of hang out here. But I do want to get that experience. I do want to see what's going on at Lucas Oil, and that'll start tomorrow. Other pieces. If you haven't already seen, there are a ton of videos I've already posted of player interviews, press conferences from this morning. I've got probably a half a dozen or more. Once I wrap up this show, which is going to be any minute now, I am going to upload the rest. It takes a while. These are big files, and for whatever reason, it takes forever for them to get processed by YouTube and all that. So the videos will go up. I have more audio as well to edit and get up, so I'll get that up as well. I will edit this show and post it. So maybe one day we can dare to dream that this show will be big enough that I can afford to have someone here with me who can do some of this editing so I don't have to take it all on, and I can focus on getting guests and having other conversations with people. But for now, I'm doing it all. I appreciate all the support I've gotten, all the people that have liked, subscribed, become YouTube members, become patreon.com/hawkblogger members. There's people that have done like just straight tips on Venmo, Brian-Nemhauser. So I really, really appreciate all the support, and it's been really helpful. I'm thinking about whether it makes sense right now for me to, I guess what I'll do is I'll take a couple questions. If there are questions, I'll look in chat. And then I'm probably going to wrap up pretty soon because I want to get to the other editing I have to do so I can get you guys all that content today. It's going to be a flood. So I want to get that to you. And so let me look at Super Chat. Blaze says, let Mike Mac know I believe in him. He's going to bring us a Lombardi. Sorry I missed that, Blaze. Was definitely focused on Mike for that part, but I will let him know next time I see him. Bryce Coots gives 10 Hawk Blogger memberships. I really appreciate your continued generosity, Bryce. 20 from Aaron Martin. I don't know if I've seen Aaron's name on here before. Welcome if you're new. If you're not new and you're just doing this for one of the first times, thank you. Either way, really appreciate it. 12 for life. It's been a member for 5 months, which I love. Says, thanks for all of this incredible coverage, Brian. Thank you. I really appreciate it. There goes Italian Knight dropping the 50 free Hawk Blogger memberships. Thank you, man. He has been absolutely killing it with gifted memberships. And then Amy Holmes, one of our moderators, one of the people that keeps this thing on the tracks, says, I'm just so excited for you with all of this and thrilled at how you're sharing it with us. Well, very nice of you to say, Amy, and I really appreciate your help in moderating and just being a great part of this community. I'll say this. I was so bummed yesterday when I got the message from Dave Pearson and the PR staff that they swung by. He had John Schneider with him, and I wasn't here. I was like, God dang it. I was at the Pete Carroll press conference, and I was like, man, John and I would have had a lot of fun doing that. And it would have been a surprise, and it would have been great. But I wasn't here. And so I had my fingers crossed that maybe we could make the Mike Macdonald thing work today. You know, he's got a lot of other places to go. He's talking to people that matter, people that have, legitimate platforms that they're coming for. For those guys to come over here to this little table that I've got set up, it says a lot about them. I think it's pretty cool. And I think if you're trying to engage fans, some of the ways you do that is not with the big shows. It's coming to these like fan-driven platforms where I'm doing this because I love it. It's obviously my job now, but you guys are all fans of this because you love this team. And for Mike to come over and spend time, like for him, I would guess it's not even a second thought. He's happy to have that conversation with me. He's happy to have a conversation with anybody. I was going to ask him a little bit more about, fan engagement and like the autographs that he's having to sign, but I only had a few minutes. I knew I only had a few minutes and wanted to try to make the most of it. But I think that really speaks well of them. And I think it's one of the things I've learned in this last year is I used to have a much different perspective on the Seahawks PR staff than I do now. I thought they were the big bad, group of guys that would, punish you and threaten you. That's not who they are. I mean, they'll come at certain people because they're doing their jobs, but they'll work with you too. And really, in the end of the day, one of the reasons I think we've gotten along pretty well is that we want the same thing. I'm not really interested in breaking news or, having something leaked. I'm interested in the Seahawks winning a Super Bowl. And I want whatever's going to help that happen. And so if I break open a story, and by doing that, I betray a trust and then unable to have conversations, that's not great. If I break a story and it actually hurts the Seahawks, like maybe I find out the Seahawks, plan to draft X, Y, or Z, that would be a big story. It would get a lot of coverage. It would help my show. But it also hurts the Seahawks. And so I'm just not interested in that stuff. And so I think that's one of the things that we've kind of come to terms with that's helped our relationship. And then the other piece is just reflecting, and this is a little bit of maybe a selfish thing, but also I think you guys have been along for the journey, so I think you'll get it. It's been less than a year that I've been doing this, and at least full time. I've been doing it for 18 years on the blog, but it's pretty surreal that less than a year of doing this full time independently, I'm at the Combine on Radio Row, surrounded by all sorts of professionals, and the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks came over and spent time with me on my show. That's pretty damn cool. Some people will try to act like it's not a big deal and that they're not affected by it. That's as you put it in Pixar terms, that's a core memory. That's a cool experience, and part of the reason that happened is because of them. Part of the reason is because I've worked hard on building those relationships over the year, and it's nice to see that kind of reflected back. So I think only onward and upward from here. A lot of other great stuff. I think I'm going to get Robert Mays a little bit later this week. Hoping to we'll see if I get Mike Sando on. I haven't reached out to Mike yet, but I'm sure I'll see him. I'm going to try to get Bootleg Football on the show. I will probably try to get on, maybe I'll get Jordan Reed. I don't know. I'm going to get a bunch of folks on. So continue to have lots of shows, lots of content. I doubt you guys will be able to keep up with it all, but the good news is there's some quiet time as well before free agency hits. Who knows? Maybe it won't be quiet. Maybe we'll be talking about an Ernest Jones contract extension, and I'll be at the VMAC next week covering that. So who knows? This is all kind of a fresh experience and fun along the way. All right. So before I leave, a couple more super chats. Super Sauce XL says, awesome seeing everything you're doing, Brian. Been a fan since 2016. Blessed to have you in this community. That is very nice of you, Super Sauce. And yeah, that's impressive because there's not been a lot of greatness since 2016. So sticking with us through that is pretty cool. Thank you for doing that. Vince Ochoa says, who's been a member for 6 months, says, it says a lot about you. You're doing great. Well, that is nice of you. And I try to keep it low ego and at the same time also be genuine about the fact that it does feel good. It's cool. It's something I wouldn't have expected at this point, and I'm loving it. So hopefully you guys are getting something from it too. I'll have to go back and grade the questions that I asked Mike because I'd already asked him questions over there. There's a couple there that I got in that I wanted to ask him a little bit more about the analytics stuff, but again, limited time. So I think we learned a little bit, and looking forward to coming back to do Real Hawk Talk later. Keep an eye out for that. Make sure you click subscribe, like the show, and click the bell That'll get you notified when a new show is coming on. All right. With that, I am going to say thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings, bonus episode at that. I will be back with you later today. Until then, have a great rest of your, I guess, morning for you guys, midday, and I'll see you in a little bit.